Hey, howdy, and hi. Welcome back to the House of Grey. First Casey's red ball of energy, then Artorius' freight train-like hits during his tryout. Now Kylie? What's going on? It seems like Casey's childhood secrets might be coming to a head and could be wrapped up in that little black book he now holds in his hands. What's he gonna do with it? For that matter, what is it? Guess you'll have to stay right here and find out in episode 14. After the episode, stroll on over to houseofgreybook.com and let us know what you think. Now, on with the show. Casey, are you okay? Monson took a step towards him. Casey's face had gone pale the minute he had opened the planner. The three onlookers stared at his shock, horror, and anger. Overwhelming anger. Casey? Monson repeated his name, but Casey did not seem to be listening. He barely seemed coherent. His eyes shifted from Kylie's planner to her. How long have you had it? Kylie looked distinctively uncomfortable. Monson saw that she seemed to be living that moment where when you were a child, your mother or father catches you with your hand in the cookie jar. This situation, however, was worse than a mere cookie jar. Much, much worse. I've had it since you gave it to me. Kylie's answer felt like the truth, unlike most of her other actions Monson had seen thus far. Her statement was taking its toll and seemed to be draining on her hidden reserves of energy. She needed to go to the medical wing, and she needed to go now. You ripped it! Casey's voice was dripping with rage. I watched you do it! Now you're saying that you've had it all this time? Kylie attempted a sneer. Well, just because I ripped it up doesn't mean it's the only copy. Casey almost yelled. This is the original and you know it! Why would you have it anyway? You ripped it up and threw it away, and me along with it. Explain yourself, Kylie. Cassius, calm down. I'm not sure what it is you're thinking, but you don't need to get so upset. Monson shifted to look at Kylie. Her tone, it was as if she was goading him. Enough of your bull! Answer me! All at once, Casey cocked his arm back, balling his hand into a fist. His arm shot forward, but then abruptly seemed to slow down, as if it was moving in slow motion. It did not actually slow down. It just seemed that way, because there was a sound, sort of like a whoosh. It echoed in that small clearing, reflecting a reverberating ping clearly through the air. The whoosh grew more pronounced as Casey connected his balled fist with a small pine tree. The sapling exploded into fragments, sending shards of wood flying in every direction. The tree did not just bend backwards and crack. No, the force of the blow literally shattered the tree into a million pieces. In the place where the young tree stood moments before was a splintered stump about 1.5 feet tall. Besides this stump, the only evidence of the tree's existence was the thousands of tiny pinewood matchsticks and the remnants of pine needles all strewn across the grass. Casey looked sharply from his hand to the fractured stump. Monson and Artorius stared at their friend. What just happened? That's impossible. Monson's mind started to reel, bending over itself as he tried to comprehend this strange sequence of events. He mouthed the words as if he knew them all the time. Flash fist. He just threw a flash fist. Horror lit up Casey's face. Apparently, this situation was just as shocking to him as it was to everyone else. You never did learn to control that temper. Kylie's voice had a hint of a smile. And now look what you've done. You've used your special move on a defenseless tree. Al Gore is gonna be pissed. Kylie's voice sounded very weak. Monson watched her head bobble, finally lolling back and coming to rest on Artorius' chest. She needed help fast. Casey looked like he was trying to say something. Artorius spoke up. "That's enough, Cassius." Monson thought Artorius was trying to sound reassuring. He was not sure if the big guy was succeeding at it. "I need to get Kylie to the med wing." He turned and started to walk away. Casey yelled after him, "Wait, Arthur!" Casey's voice sounded desperate. "I'm not done talking to her." Casey took a step towards Artorius, apparently intending to stop him from leaving. To his surprise, Artorius stopped abruptly, peering over his shoulder. "Hey, Case?" Despite his anger, Casey managed to look surprised. "Yeah." "Don't call me Arthur." He gave Casey a huge, cheesy smile. Monson laughed. Of course he laughed. Being the fool that he was, he always laughed at times when it was the least appropriate. Obviously, Artorius was attempting to use humor to find a way out of this without confrontation, but that did not mean that Monson should rise to it. Casey's lips parted. Monson half expected him to start yelling obscenities. He did not. He said one word. "Artorius." Arthur Payne's self-proclaimed name sounded strange coming from Casey. On another day or in a different situation, this might have been a sort of moral victory for Artorius. The moment was lost, however, as he moved away at top speed, carrying Kylie to the medical wing. "Wait, Casey!" Monson quickly positioned himself in front of Casey before he could give chase. "Gray, get out of my way. This is between me and Kylie. You have no right to interfere." "Funny you should mention that." Monson's voice held a cold note, but he did his best to sound calm. "You sound like that moron Martin. Is that how you're going to deal with this? You're going to give Kylie a good slap? You know, smack her around a bit till you get what you want?" Casey's arm coiled and struck. A clear boxer-style left cross sailed at Monson's face. The punch's form was disgusting and sloppy. Monson saw it, clear as day. He knew exactly what to do. He knew exactly how to block it. His instinct kicked in and he again felt his body start to move. His hand even began sweeping upwards, cutting towards Casey's incoming blow. Pushing his instinct aside, he halted his sweeping hand. It fell back to his side, just as Casey's fist connected with his jaw. Monson dropped like a sack of potatoes. He found that he suddenly felt very sorry for French fries. Casey's anger hung for a long second, but siphoned away in a burst of revelation. He ran away, as realization penetrated the fog of emotion. "Take as much time as you need." Monson closed his eyes. "I'll be right here if you need me." There was a knock at his door. Monson looked up from his computer and turned to look at the clock on the wall. 8 o'clock, huh? Thought Monson, stretching his arms. I wonder who it is. "Master Grey." Brian's voice came from the other room. "You have a visitor." "Send him in, Brian." Artorius walked into the room. He looked distraught, like he was laboring under some huge burden. "Where have you been?" Monson blurted it out the moment Artorius entered the study. "I haven't seen you for an entire day. Uncool to leave me hanging like that." "I was in the medical wing for most of the evening, and for part of this morning. Then, I tried to talk to Casey." He walked to the couch against the far wall, plopped on it, and let out a breath. He looked a great deal calmer than before. He wasn't having any of it. All in all, it's not the best Saturday I've ever had. "How's Kylie? She okay? What about Casey? Where's he been?" "Slow down, one at a time. Kylie's doing better, but you should have seen her yesterday. She looked half dead." "Half dead?" Monson raised an eyebrow. "You're dramatizing just a bit." Artorius's eyes rose to meet Monson's. his own expression turning very serious. "No, I'm not." Monson, slightly taken aback, lapsed into silence as a stream of thoughts came to mind. Whatever Kylie did, it had a huge effect on her stamina. Her mind control, or whatever it was, physically affected her. Doubt suddenly rose up from the back of his mind. "Mind control?" he thought. "That isn't possible. This isn't one of Casey's animes. Normal people don't have powers like that. The good guys don't always win, and life isn't fair." He caught the image of his scarred countenance in his sleeping flat screen. "Life is definitely not fair," said the voice in his head. He stared at his own face for a moment more. His face stared back at him. No, that wasn't right. His face reflected back. A reflection does not stare. It is just there. But then why were his lips moving? He was not speaking. He leaned closer to the black screen. He thought he saw something behind his reflection, almost like those colorful 3D pictures that you have to stare at for a while before you see the hidden image. He rubbed his eyes. "Grey, you okay?" Artorius' voice startled him. He did not, however, turn and look as the inclination enticed him. He slowly finished rubbing his eyes and again gazed at his own face in the screen. "Just me," he thought. "Man, I must be tired." "Yeah, I'm fine," he said out loud. "Just a bit tired. It's been a long day." "Ain't that the truth?" Artorius' casual glance suddenly jerked, looking squarely at the right side of Monson's face. Troubled, he spoke in an unsure voice. "Grey, what happened to your face?" Monson laughed. "Wow, this conversation sounds familiar." Artorius laughed, catching on. Memories. But no, that wasn't what I was referring to. Your jaw, it's all red and purple. And swollen?" Monson paused, unsure as to whether he should tell Artorius what had happened. He decided that he should. "Casey." Artorius' eyes bulged. "He hit you?" Monson nodded his head. "Yeah." "Why?" "Probably because I was there, and in his way." Artorius' shock gave way to confusion. "What happened?" Monson returned the concern with a weak smile. His jaw still hurt. He relayed the events after Artorius left, filling in the details the best he could. Amazement spread its way onto Artorius' face. His voice reflected his emotion. "So, what happened after he hit you?" "I lied on the ground for a bit, then, came back here. I've been waiting for you and him ever since." Monson slid his phone open. "I sent him a text this morning, and another one about an hour ago. Haven't heard from him." Artorius ran a hand through his hair. Some sort of internal struggle seemed to be plaguing him now. "I think we need to talk, Grey." "About what?" Artorius smiled. "About the very thing that you've been wondering. I think we need to talk about Kylie and Casey." He looked at the bruise starting to form on Monson's face. "There's an explanation for his behavior. Please don't think badly of him." Monson's confusion was mounting. "Hold on, Arthur." Artorius glared at him. Sorry. Monson shot him a cheesy smile. He winced. His jaw twinged painfully. "I thought we wanted Casey to tell his story." "We did." Monson put up a hand as if to say, "What's changed?" Artorius gave him a serious look. "Everything. But that's not the point. I think you've earned this one." I can't give you all the details. The two were in Monson's room now, Monson lying on the bed, and Artorius in his customary spot by the window. They both snacked on some rice cakes that Brian had left out. They were very dry, without much flavor, but they were low in everything from calories to sugar, so Brian loved them. Artorius continued talking after taking a bite of his cake. I don't know the whole story myself, but as these stories tend to start, Kylie and Casey were childhood friends. They grew up together and... Monson, expecting as much, interrupted. Okay, let me guess. They grew apart as they went to school. Artorius looked unsure of himself. Yes and no at the same time. It's kind of hard to put into words. Wait. Monson put up a hand. Allow me. Artorius waved his hand as if to tell him he had the floor. Monson cleared his throat. They were childhood friends, very close, inseparable in fact. And for the longest time, like family. No, even closer than family. When the time came, they started school together and remained just as close, supporting each other through all kinds of trials. Both were very happy with their friendship and the obvious hints of something more just under the surface. He gave Artorius a small wink, then continued. See, all that changed when Kylie came to school one day, looked down and suddenly realized she had boobs and a smoking hot bod, and all of a sudden Cassius K wasn't qualified to be her friend anymore. Jealousy, anger, and bitterness swelled as the turbulent, unsettled, and tragically, the unspoken feelings took their toll, destroying the once glorious relationship. Now they hold fast to the remnants of that magnificent past, not wanting to, but sometimes thinking of how things might have been. He put up his arms as if to say, ta-da, then quickly put them back to his side, mortified. Artorius just looked on, taken aback. Sorry, Arthur. Monson berated himself inwardly, realizing once again his bad habit of using humor to deal with sad or depressing things, causing him to crack jokes at inappropriate times. He was such a jackass. Artorius recovered. No, it's not that. It's just you're pretty dang close to what really happened. How'd you know? Then, as an afterthought, he added, and don't call me Arthur. Monson shrugged in relief. I was in a hospital bed for like 2 months. I watched a lot of TV. I'm pretty sure I saw this exact scene on an episode of Days of Our Lives. Artorius tried to talk and laugh at the same time, which caused him to choke on the half-chewed rice cake. Finally, composing himself, he continued, Well, I'll try and fill in the details that Days of Our Lives left out. He settled back, trying to make himself more comfortable. Really, for the most part, you got the bulk of the story correct. They were friends, very close ones from what I understand. What you don't know is that Kylie didn't just go through puberty. She went through a change. Monson chuckled at this. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm glad that we got that out of the way. I don't think we need to continue the story any further. I really feel that I understand both Kylie and Casey in ways that I didn't even think possible. Artorius scowled, though he had a slight smile on his face. You're such a smartass. Yeah, I know. Okay, so tell me about this colossal change that Kylie experienced. I have a better idea. I'll show you. A flutter of disbelief circled the corners of Monson's mouth. And how do you plan on doing that? Artorius continued smiling and pulled out his iPhone. Moving towards the bed, he motioned for Monson to scoot over, and the big guy sat down next to him. Artorius touched his finger to the screen, sliding it across to unlock it, and brought up the main touchscreen. He touched the icon called Photos, and then scrolled down. Now, form a picture in your mind of what Kylie looks like today. You're well acquainted with her, and hey, let's face it, she's a fairly hard person to forget. Got it? Okay, now look. Artorius touched the small JPEG icon, and the image filled the screen. Monson gasped, and stared at the picture in shock. Okay, I agree. She changed. Continue your story. Artorius nodded his head, a knowing expression on his face. But it wasn't just her change in appearance that caused... He waved his hand vaguely. All that. Believe it or not, her entire person changed almost overnight from a nice, shy girl to what you see now. Interesting. Monson reclined and interlocked his hands, placing them behind his head, thinking. He lied there for a moment. But that's not totally out of the ordinary. I remember this one time on Days of Our Lives. Grey, please. Monson went slightly red. He changed tactics. My point is that it does happen a lot. I mean, kids grow up and change. I don't see anything that's really out of the ordinary. Well, except for the fact they had a huge falling out. What really causes them to act that way towards each other? I've never seen Casey that pissed off before. That's where the details get faded. From what I gathered, a couple of events contributed to their current state. The first was the death of Casey's mother and his father's disappearance. Monson propped himself up. He marveled inwardly. Casey's mother died? And his father? His father disappeared? He could not believe it. How could he have not known? He was supposed to be Casey's friend. He paused in his contemplation, and it all suddenly made sense. Casey's voice flowed into Monson's mind. My guardians couldn't make it today. It's a family thing. My dad taught me when I was very young. Then my uncle took over. There were hints all over, thought Monson. I was just too dumb to see him. I know what you're thinking, Grey. Artorius spoke very quietly. You're a good friend, Grey. You didn't know because Casey didn't want you to know. He didn't want your pity. He just wanted people to have fun and enjoy the moment. Monson could not argue with that. He had similar reasons for his own secrets. The second has to do with Kylie's, Hey, Dr. Phil. Both Artorius and Monson sat up. Casey was standing in the doorframe, leaning tensely against it, arms folded across his body. There was a certain air of edginess around him. He waited for Monson or Artorius to say something. Nothing came. Casey, seeing this, walked towards Monson. Why didn't you block it, dude? Monson laughed. You really think highly of me, Case? He sat up a little straighter on the bed. Don't you think I would have blocked it if I could? You so could have, dude. I know you could have. Quit kidding yourself. Why'd you let me hit you? Monson took a deep breath. Because you're my friend, and it seemed like you needed to hit someone. He spoke slowly, his jaw still incredibly sore. I'll let you hit me as many times as you need, Case. I have to admit, you were a bit scary yesterday. That version of the Flash Fist was a lot more destructive than the first time I saw you use it. I let you hit me because, well, I didn't want you to hit Kylie. Casey deflated as hurt crept on to his proud face. Grey, I would never have hit Kylie. I could never. I know, Casey. Monson did in fact know. The shade of his eyes and the intention of Casey's voice told him so. No matter what, Cassius K would never have struck Kylie Cormac. Never. But I had to be sure. Tears started to run down Casey's face involuntarily. He wiped them away, straining to hold them back. Monson's voice went low, speaking with a reassuring undertone. Look, I don't know what happened between you and Kylie. Well, not fully at least. But I do know that you can't solve everything with a flash fist. I know. I didn't even mean to use it. And it's never been that powerful before. I just sort of lost control. Monson knew that feeling all too well. Maybe he was rubbing off on Casey. Casey, you need to tackle this problem with your words. You need to talk to Kylie. If you refuse to talk to her, or us, the only thing that's going to happen is, well, you know what's going to happen. I'm sorry. I can't, Grey. I thought that I had let her go, that I'd
forgiven and forgot."
Casey moved and sat down cross-legged in front of the bed, wrapping his arms around his knees. He sank his head into his chest.
"I was wrong. I haven't forgiven her, and I could never forget."
"It's okay, Casey. I forgive you. I forgave you even before you punched me." Casey gave Monson a furious look, and then shook his head as if he suddenly decided something.
"Dude, hit me back, Grey. That would make us even. You should hit me."
Monson's eyes furrowed.
"Casey, I'm not gonna hit you."
Casey looked down at the floor, shaking his head.
No, you should. You really should. That's how it should be. I'll show you how
Casey fell backward as a pillow smacked him hard in the face. His back hit the floor with a loud thump. He stared up at Monson, who was laughing hysterically. He had a pillow bunched in his hands, holding it by the ends.
"Dude, you actually hit me."
Casey sounded shocked.
"What? You told me to." "Yeah, but I didn't think you'd actually do it."
Monson could not stop laughing.
"Well, I guess we know how really sorry you are then. Hit me back indeed."
"Yeah, maybe he should hit you again, Case."
All three boys laughed until they had tears in their eyes, and with that, things were completely back to normal. Everything forgiven, Casey jumped on the bed next to Artorius and Monson. They all laid there quietly for a moment, staring up at the canopy cover over Monson's bed.
"So, how's Kylie? She okay?"
Artorius paused for the briefest of moments.
"Yeah, she's okay. She's resting at the moment. They said it was just exhaustion, and that she'd be okay with some food and rest. Though the nurse, who was totally hot, by the way, was at a loss of how she ended up like that."
"Did she say anything?" Casey's voice seemed half expectant, half nonchalant.
"No, not really. She said she had a boyfriend. Even showed me a picture of the dude. He was kind of goofy looking if you ask Arthur." "What?"
"Not the nurse, you fool. Kylie. Did Kylie say anything?"
"Oh, no, not really. Well..."
Artorius closed his eyes in concentration.
"Not about you, anyway. She did say that she's still mad at you, Grey, but to thank you."
"Mad at me?"
Monson sat up and looked at him.
"Why on earth would she be mad at me?"
"I don't really know."
Artorius sounded just as confused as Monson.
"I think she was referring to the whole Damien thing back at orientation. Apparently she's still pissed about that. I don't know what she's on about, though. If she came here because she likes Damien, she's not trying very hard."
This statement puzzled Monson. He lied back down as he started to talk.
"What are you talking about?"
"Kylie. Apparently she transferred here with the intention of hooking up with Damien."
"No way."
"I know. Ridiculous, right?"
Monson shook his head in disbelief.
"Totally, but wait, back up a second. What do you mean she's not trying very hard?"
"Just what I said. If she's as in love with Damien as she says, she should be trying a lot harder. From what I hear, she spends most of her time in the library. She's always been really smart, so I don't think she's really studying."
"That's weird. Do you know what she's doing in there?"
"Drawing up plans to rule the world for all I know. I just repeat what I hear."
"World domination, huh? I like the sound of that. I've always wondered how to succeed in evil."
A noise interrupted the boys' second round of laughter. For the second time that evening, there was a knock at Monson's door. All three boys sat up. Monson looked towards the other two.
"Now, who do you think that could be?"
Casey shrugged.
"No idea, bro. The only two friends you have are sitting right here."
Monson nodded his agreement. He called for Brian.
"Hey, Brian, you there? Could you get the door?"
No answer. Monson jumped down off the bed and headed out of the bedroom.
"Where's Brian?"
thought Monson, coming to the door, the other two in tow.
"Hey, Grey, you got any real food in this joint? I'm starving."
Yeah, just check around.
Monson started to open the door.
I'm sure there's something over...
His voice trailed off.
Kylie?
Kylie Cormack stood in the doorway. Monson repeated his question.
Kylie, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be resting?
She waved the question away.
I'm fine. I've just been a bit overworked lately. Yeah, I guess mind-controlled powers will do that. I bet you're an amazing poker player.
Monson lurched forward as a thrown pillow hit him in the back of the head. He jerked his head around to see Casey looking at him angrily.
What was that, Gray? Nothing.
Monson about-faced back towards Kylie.
So, how are you feeling? I'm fine, and I don't need you worrying about me. I can take care of myself.
He raised an eyebrow.
Note taken. The next time you're retching, half dead on the ground, I'll make sure to mind my own business.
Kylie simply stared at him. Apparently, she was not well versed in sarcasm. He rearranged his face with the intention of making himself look comical.
Well, I would invite you in, but I doubt you would take me up on the offer. And besides...
Monson turned and gave Casey a meaningful look.
I'm rather fond of this dark wood furniture. I'd like to keep it intact.
Monson dodged a second pillow thrown his way. It slid past him towards Kylie. She sidestepped it gracefully. Casey appeared to be out of pillows as he stopped after that.
So to recap, you don't want me to worry about you, but that's not why you're here. So, why don't you let me know what it is you are here for?
Kylie nodded and gave him a weird expression.
Somehow, she appeared reluctant.
Finally, she raised her hand, proffering it to him.
Here, I think this makes us even.
She dangled a white piece of paper in her hand. Monson turned and gave Artorius the slightest of glances, which conveyed his concern. He mentally tried to convey his thoughts.
What do I do?
Artorius answered in equal silence, shrugging as he did. Take it.
Thanks, Kylie, but you really don't need to give me anything. No, it's better this way. I owe you, and this should make us even.
She shook her hand, indicating that he should take the paper. He did so, but met resistance from Kylie when he attempted to relieve her of it.
Before I give this to you, you have to promise me that you will burn the paper after you use it, and won't share the contents with another soul.
He gave her an unsure look.
Why? Is it dangerous? You'll understand after you've opened it. Now, do I have your word? Of course.
He took the paper from Kylie's reluctant hand. There was a breathless silence as he partially unfolded the paper. 303-555-6767.
What's this? It looks like a telephone number.
Exactly. Kylie was acting as if she had just given him the most valuable thing in the world.
But whose number? Oh, no, don't tell me.
His eyes bulged as he slowly looked up towards her. She flushed. Actually, it was quite adorable.
No, it's not mine. Just read it.
He finished unfolding the paper to see 5 words written in small, slanted letters. Cyan Harrison. You are welcome. His words came spilling out like vomit.
Wait, no, hang on a second. Why on earth would I want Cyan's number?
Kylie laughed.
Well, you are a guy, aren't you?
Monson glared at her indignantly.
Of course. You want me to prove it?
Her face lit up like a stoplight.
That won't be necessary. Anyway, if you are a guy, then why wouldn't you want Cyan's number? That's not the point. Isn't this a little presumptuous? I mean, why would you do that to Cyan?
Kylie's lips slacked a bit. Monson took this to mean she was confused.
Kylie, hello?
His voice almost drowned in his own exasperation.
I have the face of a corpse. I'm like the Walking Dead. I don't have any business calling a girl like that.
Kylie's lip dripped even further, but also started to curl.
You have the face of a corpse? Why would that stop you from calling Cyan? You talk to Taurus quite a bit, don't you? It's different with Taurus. I don't see any difference.
She shook her mantle of blonde hair.
It's never seemed to bother you before. It's never bothered me before? As if I had a choice,
thought Monson. He answered wryly.
This isn't about me, Kylie. It's about Cyan. It would be different if she had given it to me herself, but I can't accept it like this. You really don't get it, do you?
Monson gave her a baffled look. Her face changed as a genuine smile crept onto it. Remembering that first day of school, Monson mentally noted that he had been right. She was prettier without the sneer.
You're a lot more innocent than I thought, Grey. You may actually be pure of heart. Maybe one of the few there is left.
She cocked her head back.
What a completely cheesy idea. I'm not sure I follow you, Kylie. Never mind. I can just see why he's friends with you. That's all. Anyway, I don't care what you do with it. It's yours. Throw it away, burn it, whatever. Throw it away?
Monson thought. Something about that idea bothered him. She turned before Monson could say anything and started down the hall. Stopping after about 5 feet, she turned back.
No one, Grey.
She gave him a serious look, which he returned.
No one can see that number but you. Not Arthur, and not Cassius.
Again, she started off before he could answer. Monson started to pull back to close his door when,
Oh, Grey, one more thing.
He popped his head out to see her.
Yeah, Kylie. Don't talk to me again.
She left as his jaw dropped. Picking himself up, he closed his door. He turned to speak to Artorius and was surprised when Casey was right there.
Whoa, Casey.
Monson took a step back.
Give me some space, man.
What'd she give you? His voice sounded a bit angry. Monson gave him a devious grin. He raised his arms and put them behind his head.
A love letter. Huh. Being popular is so tough.
Grey, don't make me hit you again. Monson chuckled slightly.
All right. No need to get violent.
Monson quickly relayed the parts of the conversation with Kylie that the other two had missed. The blood drained quickly from Casey's face as Monson held up the paper.
Holy crap!
Casey whistled and ran a hand through his hair.
I can't believe she did that. I know, right? I thought it was weird too. What a strange way to thank someone.
Do what she says, Grey. Do it now. Monson's face reflected his confusion.
Do what, Casey? What are you on about?
Casey rolled his eyes, obviously annoyed at what Monson was not picking up. He suddenly turned on his heel and walked towards Monson's room. Seconds later, he returned with Monson's phone in hand.
Casey, what are you doing with my phone?
Casey's finger shot up, silencing Monson. He started tapping the keys furiously until,
Here.
Casey tossed Monson's phone to him, which he caught with his free hand. Put Cyan's number in. Monson did so, too bewildered to argue. He typed in the numbers on the pad and pushed the save button. As he finished, Casey again gestured, beckoning him to throw the phone back. I'm putting a lock on your phone, Grey. He started tapping the keyboard again. From now on, when you want to use your phone, you're gonna have to put in this code. He showed Monson a 6-digit code, then continued. That way, no one can get into your phone without that code. You need to let people know that it's coded. As a matter of fact, it might not be a bad idea just to leave it up here if you aren't positive that you're gonna use it.
Hold on, Case. You're not making any sense. Why would I leave my phone here, and why does it need a code?
Casey gave Monson a flabbergasted look. You know, Grey, for someone who is as smart as you,
You can be a real idiot sometimes. What'd I say?
Artorius cut in. Now, Casey, that's a bit harsh. Allow me a go. Artorius turned his attention towards Monson. Where do we go to school?
Collin University? But what does that have to do with anything?
Artorius put up a hand as if to say, wait on it. He continued. And what is the one thing that most of the students at Collin have in common? Monson scratched his head in confusion.
Adolescence?
Artorius laughed. No, Grey. Money. Most of the students here are very wealthy. Monson thought on this.
Yeah, still not getting your point.
I'm getting there. Okay, so most of the students have money, right?
Yes.
So, what conclusion can we draw from that little piece of information?
Monson had no idea. That they can buy a lot of stuff?
Precisely. Artorius beamed. People with money aren't used to being denied access to something that they really want.
I still don't get it. Are you trying to tell me that I have something that people really want?
Yes, Grey. That is exactly what I'm telling you.
I'll give you $500 for Cyan's phone number.
Make it 1,000.
2,000. $5,000.
Monson looked at the gathered crowd and wished fervently that he had remembered to leave his phone in his room. Who would have thought that that little phone number would have caused so much grief?
Listen, guys, don't make me repeat myself. Cyan's phone number is not for sale. I would happily give it to you all if I could, but it's not mine to give.
The boys started to protest, but he put up a hand.
It's not open for discussion. The answer is no.
Muttering broke out as the group of 5 or 6 boys dispersed and went off assumingly back to their various gym activities. Many venomous looks found their mark over slumped shoulders, and all seemed to be directed straight at Monson. He returned their gazes fervently. He let out a deep sigh. They were gone. Finally. It had been the same thing over and over again for the last 3 days, ever since the student body found out that he was in possession of Cyan's number. People, boys mainly, but even some girls, constantly dogged him, trying to get him to reveal the coveted information. He had known that Cyan was in demand, but this was just silly. What made it worse was he did not even know how this came to everyone's attention. He did not tell anyone, and of course, neither did Casey or Artorius. That only left Kylie. But why would she say anything? The whole affair just irked him.
You handled that well.
Casey sat down next to Monson. Monson gave him a sour look.
I'm glad you're enjoying this. Come on, dude. You always said you wanted to be popular.
Casey gave him a smirky smile, the one that he wore when he was trying to be clever. Monson continued to glare at him.
This is ridiculous. I can't even believe the uproar. Why is everyone acting like this? You should know the answer to that, bro.
Monson's answer was skeptical.
I guess I should. I just don't understand how it's possible that no one has Cyan's number.
Casey's tone was sympathetic.
I know, right? It's been all over the blogs. I don't think you understand what Kylie got you into, Grey. Gossip Guy's blog is going crazy. You're the first guy since Cyan's debut to have any sort of connection with her. You're certainly right about...
He paused mid-thought.
Wait, what's Gossip Guy? Never mind.
Casey went very red.
The point is, Cyan's stock is very high right now. Every dude wants her, and every chica wants to be her. You're the only man in existence with her cell phone number, bro. A direct link to the elusive little vixen herself. Of course you're gonna get some flack. Just comes with the territory. That's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it doesn't make any sense. Don't get me wrong. Cyan is smoking hot. I get that, but what about Taurus? I have Taurus's phone number, and Nobody's knocking down my door for that. I mean, wasn't she supposed to be, well, you know, the it girl?
Casey laughed.
Oh, Grey, you're so innocent, and yet you always ask just the right questions. As enigmatic as ever, Casey.
Monson leaned back on his hands.
So, are you actually going to answer my question? There's really not much to it, bro.
Casey mimicked Monson's movements, reclining slightly.
Alright, Taurus is extremely popular, and has been for a while now. When she goes on tour and stuff, she's huge. You should see it, man. It's crazy. Fans, paparazzi, groupies, the works. And it's not like people here aren't just as starstruck, but she's known, right? People understand why she's so untouchable. It's just a little different in Cyan's case.
He gave Monson a serious look.
Dude, did you know Cyan's dad's like the biggest landowner in the world?
Monson looked shocked.
I had no idea. Yeah, dude. He owns like half the world or something.
Monson gave him a skeptical look.
You're exaggerating just a bit. Yeah, but only a bit.
Casey continued.
Okay, how about this one? Cyan's adopted. What?
Monson's eyes went so wide, he thought they might fall out.
No way. Way. Totally way. Whoa.
Monson was at a loss for words.
Crazy. I know, right? The stuff you pick up when you're doing a bit of digging.
Monson furrowed his brow.
That's all fascinating, but it still doesn't explain. Hold your impatient horses, dude. I'm getting there.
Monson went silent as Casey continued.
Alright, Cyan has supermodel looks, amazing grades, top-notch fighting abilities, which, incidentally, no one can explain. The girl can even act. Add all that to the fact that she was also adopted by, like, one of the richest men in the world? A man whose business reputation alone puts people on edge? And it all becomes way too out there. I mean, he's cold-hearted, dude, and cutthroat like no one you've ever seen. And yet, he absolutely fawns over his adopted daughter. Fawns, Grey, like a preschooler with a puppy. When she came onto the public scene, everyone, and I mean everyone, wanted a piece. From movies to music, Cyan could have had her pick, bro. Now, this was quite new for our Miss Harrison, who had only been in her new family for a couple of years. She could have totally run with it. You don't understand, Grey. She could have been big, huge. But she ignored them all, instead coming to this school at the request of her father, and thus disappearing from the limelight. The entertainment industry moved on, as, they tend to do. But this whole diamond thing has really brought her back into the spotlight, bro. Okay, hold it right there.
Monson cut in before Casey could continue.
That's what I don't understand. Why would it make everyone go after her? Why her? Why now? Come on, Grey. Even you should realize that by now. Anything the diamond touches, he turns to gold. Or diamonds in this case.
Casey laughed at his own stupid pun, then continued.
Cyan already had it going on, with no publicity, no agent. Dude, she didn't even have a career. Compound that with an absolute superstar of a boyfriend, you're just asking for attention. Alright, think of it this way. Cyan is the latest fad. To be cool, you need to be her friend if you're a chick, or hook up with her if you're a dude. Mind you, her popularity is a lot more localized. Here in the school mostly. But she's catching on, bro. She's catching on very quickly. It's as simple as that. It doesn't sound simple.
Monson's head was spinning from this new bit of information.
It doesn't even seem logical. Actually, it doesn't make any sense at all. Dude, you're overthinking it. But don't worry. You're new at this. You'll get used to it. That's comforting.
Monson rolled his eyes.
So, what do I do now? How do I get rid of the masses? Endure, bro.
Casey's voice was calming,
as if he were trying to placate Monson. I don't think there's anything else you can do. I could just delete it. That would solve my problems. Dude, why would you do that? Why wouldn't I? Monson laid back, resting his hands on his head. It's not like I'm actually going to use the number. Why wouldn't you use it? What's the point of having a number and not using it? It was Monson's turn to laugh. And say what exactly? Hey, Cyan, I know that you've gone through great lengths to keep this number hidden, and I know that you didn't give it to me, but I thought I would start texting you so we could talk about the weather. Right, I see your point. I thought you might. Casey shrugged. Even so, bro, I wouldn't do it if I were you. You never know, man. You may find a use for it yet. Maybe you'll need to come to a rescue at some point. I doubt that. Casey looked around as if he were looking for a change of subject. Dude, where's Arthur? Monson pointed across the gym, where Artorius could be seen chatting with Indigo Harrison and her goofy gaggle of girls. A short ways past them was Cyan, playfully engaging in a fencing match. Monson's gaze lingered for a moment. He abruptly turned back towards Casey. Have you talked to Kylie? Casey almost choked on the water he was drinking. What are you talking about? Casey sputtered, gasping for air. Monson patted him gently on the back. I was wondering if you'd come around to talking to Kylie. Remember the whole mind control exploding tree, me getting my head almost taken off conversation? I thought you decided you were going to talk to her. Casey shook his head. I told you, bro, that's not possible. Too much bad blood, dude. It's better this way, trust me. What about an explanation? I think you at least owe me one of those. Dude, you're one to talk. Who are you, Monson Grey? Where did you come from? How did you survive Barty Bridge, or win a competition that's well known to be rigged? How come you know a lot about fencing and fighting, yet little about everything else? Shall I continue? Monson for a second time went silent. Stupid Casey and his fast-acting mind, Monson thought. The conversation did not continue, as another group of people started to make their way towards Monson and Casey. This was a large one. 20 people at least. It was not going to be pretty. Toad, looks like you're in for another round of request dodging. Shall we make our exit? What about practice? Monson looked towards their fencing gear, lying in a pile a few feet away. We haven't done anything yet. Casey gestured towards the crowd closing in on them. Bro, you really think this lot's gonna give you time to practice fencing? Monson curled his upper lip in a half smile. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Well, shall we? Lead the way. Monson and Casey walked briskly towards the massive steel doors located on the far side of the gym. They moved quickly, distancing themselves from the mob. Sensing their impending escape, the following crowd increased their pace, rapidly bobbing and weaving through the different student activities. Monson and Casey ducked into the Legion's private weight room and received a shock when they ran into Coach Hawk? Monson came to a dead stop. He almost hit the ground laughing. Coach Hawk had his shirt off and was displaying his massively sculpted figure to a group of distinctly uncomfortable weight training students. This perfectly molded frame comes from the accumulated achievement of the Hawk family. This particular technique was created generations ago. Casey was laughing just as hard as Monson. Dude, I'm not even sure what to say to that. Monson nodded his head in agreement. A bang behind them caused them to remember their pursuers. Oh no, where do we go from here? Casey whirled, pointing towards the back of the room. Over there. I think there's a back door through the wrestling room. They crashed through the door, then spirited down the hallway until they came to a fork. Casey stopped abruptly. I'll go this way. He pointed down the left fork. Monson gave him a confused look. Why would you do that? Casey winked. For ambush potential, of course.
Casey took off down the hall and was out of sight before Monson could register what he was saying. Despite his sudden inclination to remain and direct people away from Casey's ambush, Monson took the right fork and ran as fast as he could down it. A left, a right, around a corner, down a hallway, up some stairs, through some doors, behind a curtain, through another door, into the weight room? How could that be? There was no way he had circled around. His sense of direction was not that poor. He took a moment to calm himself, listening for potential pursuers. He heard nothing. Good, he thought. Lost him. He scanned his surroundings, trying to figure out how he had arrived back to the weight room, when he realized this was a different room altogether. The layout and equipment were different, not to mention the complete lack of Coach Hawk, who was near impossible to miss. Where had he ended up? He walked cautiously further into the weight room, and found to his surprise that there was no one in it. The room, however, was gorgeous, which was not a word that he would usually use for a weight room, but it worked in this case. Placed methodically around the room was the finest lifting equipment he had ever seen. 6 massive widescreen plasma TVs made it possible to see at least one screen from any location, and all were playing a music video from a band called Figure of Fiends, but Monson did not recognize the song. Huge subwoofers adorned the floor, with accompanying mid-range tweeter units affixed to the wall, and all blared music at amazing decibels. A juice bar, packed with the most expensive supplements available, sat neatly organized as if tended by an entire restaurant staff of faithful employees. He walked towards the bar and touched the cool surface of the polished stainless steel countertop. The juice bar sprang to life with the sound of moving parts and grinding ice. A glass appeared, literally from nowhere, as a small panel shifted open and an inner mechanism pushed the glass up from the depths of the counter. Filled to the dripping brim, the glass held an orange, viscous substance that smelled of mango? Monson picked up the glass. How did it know that I liked mango? He took a sip. It was very good. He put the glass back on the counter as he marveled at the rest of the room. Well, might as well explore a bit while I'm here, he thought. He started to move across the room, examining the equipment. He amused himself for a bit using the different machines and free weights. He did not intend to work out or anything. He still was not sure that his body could take it, but he wanted to try them out, if only to satisfy his curiosity. He sampled the different machines, laughing as he imagined himself as a massive bodybuilder. He personally thought that this image was not particularly attractive, but just about anything was better than his current state. Besides, he was in a weight room after all. The music suddenly cut out. He spun on the spot, dropping the 20-pound dumbbell he had been messing with. There was not anyone there, and excluding the sudden death of the music, nothing seemed out of place. As soon as he thought this, the low drone of white noise oozed from the speakers. Listen? Listen to what?
Listen to me.
Monson attempted to master himself. His mind was playing tricks on him. He was not hearing a voice through the speakers. On the other hand, if he was, then someone was messing with him. Relief engulfed him. Someone was having some fun with him because he was not supposed to be in the weight room. Well, he was not going to play that game. He gathered himself and walked determinedly towards the door. They could not mess with him if he was not in the room, now could they? The door, however, was locked.
Very clever. I get it. I've learned my lesson. Come out already.
No answer came. Starting to get angry, he walked towards the bench when the TVs followed the music. The screens cut off as if a sudden surge seared their insides. Snow-like static sprang to life. as the TVs became cold and eerie. His eyes raised to a screen on the far wall, just in time to see words typed across, letter by letter. Listen to me. Please. Okay, now he was officially freaked out. All the screens went black, and the room went quiet. He had had enough. He ran to the door, fully intending to kick it down.
No. Stop. Please. Listen. You must listen.
The voice stopped him dead in his tracks. It was not coming from the speakers, nor was it coming from the TVs. It sounded like it was coming from him. All the flat screens suddenly flared to life again. A security camera-like view danced across the screens. It was him, standing in the middle of the weight room. He was right. Someone was messing with him. Someone was going to get a beating that, unexpectedly, the Monson on the screen looked up directly into the camera. Something did not seem right. Is this a recording or something? Monson thought. The actual Monson stepped closer to the screen. All at once, he shrank back, tripping over the dumbbell set on the floor. He sat, staring at the face of the on-screen Monson. It was completely normal, totally devoid of scars or the like. He scrambled off the floor and looked around for the security camera that his on-screen counterpart was gazing at. He glanced at the several screens around the room, trying to orient himself to the image. Locating where the camera angle was shooting from, he moved closer to it, searching the wall for the mounted camera. Only, there was no such camera. Then, what was he looking at? What am I looking at? He thought. He looked at the TV right next to the spot where the camera should have been. The imaginary camera zoomed in on the on-screen Monson's face, almost filling the screen. The image smiled as it parted its lips to speak.
You've been listening to the podcast-only novel The House of Grey by Collin Earl. For more news, information, and updates, please visit houseofgreybook.com. Music by Figure of Beans. Visit the band at myspace.com/Figure of Beans. Cover art for The House of Grey provided by James Thane. More information at THAYN.net.